All right, Prop the Mic, presented by Props.cash, coming to you from Los Angeles and Kansas City on this beautiful Friday morning. Dave's had a safe journey and successful night in KC, and he's brought along a special guest for this podcast, our buddy and gambling consigliere since before we even hit puberty, Mr. Corey Bates. What's up, boys?
What's up?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Welcome to the show, Corey. Been talking about having you on for
a year
now, right? So, anything to say?
Could not be more pumped to be on. Love following you guys, watching what you're doing. Glad to be a part. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Super happy to have you on.
Yeah, we went to the Chiefs game last night at Arrowhead. Electric environment there. A lot of fun. The Broncos, as expected, looked terrible. They couldn't get the ball, past the Chiefs' 20-yard line for most of the game. But the Chiefs, as we projected, also kept the Broncos in the game. So it actually ended up being a pretty fun game at the end, and we cashed a lot of tickets, a lot of high-fiving.
Yes, we did.
And it was fun. Really good for a Thursday night football game. Do you agree?
Oh, yeah. I agree. It's always great to have somebody, with you being in New York and me being in LA, we cash these tickets a lot of nights, and you just want somebody to high five, and you got to experience that with Corey last night. So that's always a good feeling. Yeah.
I have to tell you too, the tailgating scene at Arrowhead was amazing. They opened up the gates about 4 hours before game time, so we rolled up pretty much right around then. We expected the scene to be pretty people filling in. It was packed at like three in the afternoon.
Getting after it. I like it.
People were getting after it. People were super friendly. So really good environment. Definitely would love to come back. But Chiefs won. That's the most important thing.
That's right. Well, I'm glad you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Yeah, thank you. All right, so let's dive into our picks for this Sunday's slate. Right, we got a big slate coming up this Sunday. As always, it's a lot of games to cover. So what we try to do is find the best opportunities in terms of matchups. Mostly looking at whether an offensive line is going up, a good offensive line is going up against a poor defensive line, and that's how we honed in on. I think we're going to cover 6 games today and hit our best picks. So, you guys ready to go?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so let's start with Carolina at Miami. This is one of the biggest mismatches of the week. Miami's at home, minus 13.5. Total is pretty nice, 47.5. So a lot of points are expected, and I think most of those points are expected to come from the Dolphins. So, Tom, you want to lead us off? What do you like from a matchup perspective?
I think this might be my favorite matchup of the weekend. I don't think that's going out on a limb here. Let's run through what we got. Carolina, 5th worst run stop win rate and trending down. Miami, 2nd best run block win rate and trending up. So huge mismatch. Carolina, 4th most yards per attempt to opposing running backs, 6th most yards before contact, 10th most yards after contact. Always a nice signal of something to target. 4th most broken tackles by opposing running backs. 4th fewest tackles for loss. So we're not going to look at too much negative yardage here. They've allowed the 2nd most runs of 10-plus yards and have the 5th highest average longest rush. So what do you say we go with Mostert here? Over 68.5 rushing yards, minus 115 on DK. I think this line is probably going up. This is what I locked it in at yesterday. He had 82 yards against Denver, which I think is a very good comp for Carolina. Achane had 37 carries. Achane, as a reminder, this is also why this is such a strong play. He's on IR for the next several weeks. But what has he done in the last 3 weeks? He had 37 carries for 455 yards over the last 3 games before getting injured. He also had 7 touchdowns, I believe. Mostert had 18 carries the week before Achane went on this insane 3-game run. So although his carries have been down over the last 3 games, I think they tick back up, and we see 18-20 at least in this game where they're probably leading. And as 2 touchdown favorites, Miami should be running the ball a lot. Let's look at some of these. David Montgomery, his line was 81.5 against Carolina. He ran for 109. Alexander Mattison, 55.5. He ran for 95. Kenneth Walker's line was 71.5. He ran for 97. Even if you go early on in the season, Tyler Algier, 44.5 was his line going into the game. He ran for 75. We got to hammer this. I think 100 plus is a nice way to ladder this up. What do you guys think?
Go for it. What do you like?
Yeah, right there. That was my pick too. Raheem Mostert here. 68.5, 69.5. Either one of those is great. Like you said, game script is going to be in Miami's favor. They're going to run the ball all day.
Yeah.
Love
and it's all him. It's all. I think Jeff Wilson's been activated, but this is going to be the Mostert show here. I think they're just going to keep feeding him the ball after they get up to a big lead.
Yeah, I love the rushing yards. I'm definitely thinking, 100 plus and maybe even parlay that with another player a couple games from now for 100 plus, and we'll see what we get there for a nice, really big parlay. So,
All
I,
right.
I also like his anytime touchdown, minus
Yes.
140. So you're paying a little juice, but 4 or 5 this season and 5 of his last 7 games. I believe he had like 3 or 4 touchdowns in one of the games this season already. So I think
Yes.
that's also
Yeah,
a
that
home
game
run.
against Denver, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
This is he's getting in the end zone on Sunday. This is
yeah.
I know. You pay the juice. It's worth it.
It's like a McCaffrey play. You're like, do I really want to pay minus 200? But when it hits every week, I think
Yeah.
it's worth the
Yeah.
juice.
Do you want to
So,
win the bet? Yeah.
all right, what
All
else?
right.
You got anything else on this one?
That I'm all in on Mostert here. That's all. That's my only play for this game.
Yeah, I think I was hoping you would continue your Bryce Young streak and keep throwing out plays, but this isn't his game, I don't think.
I don't think. I mean, similar thing to what was it Detroit last week, where like you expect him to go up as 2 touchdown favorites. He's probably going to be throwing the ball a lot, so pass attempts is definitely something to look at for him. But I'm keeping it simple and sticking with the
Yeah.
running back here.
All right, cool. So let's move on. Next game, we got Seattle at Cincy. Cincy's minus 2.5 at home, trying to salvage that season. Total on that game is 44.5, so kind of like middle of the pack in terms of total points. What do you like in terms of matchups here, Tom?
All right, we have like opposite sides of the coin for either for the running backs here. Let's start on the Cincinnati side. Seattle has the 5th best run stop win rate and has been super consistent week to week. You don't see much up and down here. They're like almost within like a percent or so week to week. So really consistent run stop defense. Cincinnati has the 8th worst run block win rate. Seattle gives up the fewest yards per attempt to opposing running backs, the 5th fewest yards before contact, and the 6th fewest yards after contact. They've allowed the 3rd fewest runs of 10 plus yards this season. They've only allowed 4 runs of 10 plus yards. They haven't allowed a single rush of more than 16 yards all season. So I'm on a fade spot here for Joe Mixon, under 65.5 rush yards, minus 130 on DK. He's only cleared this in 205. And then I just ran through what some guys, with some of these running backs had against Carolina. We have the opposite thing here. Matt Breida, his line was 41.5. He only ran for 30. Gary Brightwell, 22.5, only ran for 9. Miles Sanders, 67.5. He ran for 24. David Montgomery, 62.5. He did clear his line at 67, but that was his lowest output of the season, and he's crushed otherwise. So I think that's also a good sign. And Cam Akers, in his only game for the Rams, his line was 66.5. He ran for a teeny 29 yards. Let's fade Joe Mixon here. Coming off the big win to get 1 win on the board, I think it's a little comeback here for the Cincinnati Bengals. What do you guys say?
Yeah, I think it's great. I also loved what you said about the longest rush. And look at, I just pulled up Mixon's longest rush on the season. He had 22-yard run in week 1, but since then he's been under 14.5. So that's minus 105. You can get it for. So I think that's also a good spot to play this as well.
That's a nice
Do you agree?
Yeah, that's a nice angle. I like that.
All right, I'm going to kick it to Corey to cover the other running back. So we're fading Mixon, but how do we feel about Kenneth Walker, Corey?
Yeah, I love Kenneth Walker in this one. 66.5, minus 115 on DK. Seattle's Walker's gotten 17 attempts, at least 17 attempts in his last 3 games. Seattle's a run-first team. This is a pretty even game. Bengals giving up over 5 yards per attempt, 5.7 yards per attempt in their last 3. Kenneth Walker is going to eat today.
What do you think, Tom?
That's for sure. Yep, I was on this play. This is on my sheet right here. What I love is that Seattle has the 3rd best pass rush win rate. Arizona has the 5th worst pass rush win rate. So Burrow is going to find it a lot harder to do what he did last week, against this Seattle team. It's going to be a much different game. So I think people who think, Cincinnati turned the corner, that was a must-win game. If they lost that game, their season's done. So it was like, the kitchen sink kind of game, as they like to call it. They brought out all the weapons, pulled out all the stops, but he's got a big mismatch here. I think also Carolina's a great comp for Cincinnati. He had 97 yards against Carolina. If you look on paper, they're like neck and neck on all these rushing props. And the Giants also are right there. Also a good comp, and he had 79 yards against the Giants.
Yeah, I think that's great. I also, to kind of go that other angle, I also kind of like his longest rush as well. So we're going to fade Mixon longest rush, but I think Walker over 15.5 is pretty nice. If you look at that Carolina, who you said is a good comp, 36-yard rush there. Giants last game, 31-yard rush. So I think both of those are
There
great.
we go.
That's great. All right, cool. What else on this game? You got anything else on the quarterbacks, receivers, anything?
That's it. Just sticking with the RBs.
Perfect. I love that. All right, let's move on. Let's go to Minnesota at Chicago. Chicago's getting 3 points at home. Total is 43.5. So now we're starting to scrape the barrel on these points. Justin Jefferson is out of this game. Is that correct? Am I right on that?
Yep, he's
So
out.
that's
Out for a few weeks.
going to have a big impact on the offensive side for Minnesota. But give us your take here. What do you like in terms of the matchups?
All right. So, Chicago's been a team we've been targeting defensively all season. They have the 10th worst pass rush win rate. Minnesota, on the other hand, has the 7th best pass block win rate. Chicago has allowed the highest average QB rating across the board this season. 3rd longest average pocket time. 3rd most yards per attempt. And I like this too. The 6th most completions of 10 plus yards, but the 2nd most completions of 20 plus. The 2nd most completions of 30 plus. 4th most red zone attempts, and the 3rd fewest sacks by Chicago. So I'm high on Kirk Cousins here. I think you're getting a diminished line on him because Justin Jefferson is out. And while I think that's reasonable, I think he's got some nice weapons there regardless that I think gets him over 248.5 passing yards. He's gone over in 4 or 5 this season. I mean, averaging 300 yards a game. So I think we're getting him at a discount here. I also love him over 1.5 pass touchdowns. It's plus even money on DK. He's cleared in all 5 games this season. And then if you look at the quarterbacks to play Chicago, 4 of 5 have cleared this line. Sam Howell had 2, Russ had 3, Mahomes had 3, Love had 3. The only one who didn't was poor Baker Mayfield with only 1. I love both these. I like to put them together as a parlay. What do you guys think?
What do you think? Yeah, I had Cousins too over on it. You touched on everything. 4 or 5 games averaging 300. That's what they do, and they're going to do it well against Chicago.
For sure.
Dude, that pass touchdown is pretty sneaky. I like that 1.5. Like you said, I think it's just completely discounted. And you can't undervalue Justin Jefferson. I mean, he is a big reason for Cousins' success, but for sure. But they still have some weapons. I think Addison is going to step up in this game. I also liked his receiving yards I think it was at 53.5 receiving yards. Also 4.5 receptions. I think both of those are good plays as well. He should be moving into the wide receiver number 1 spot.
That was my next pick.
All right, let's hear it.
That was my next pick. So I locked him in at 51.5 yesterday. Obviously, you can see if he's at 53, he's getting bet up. People are on him. He saw the 2nd biggest snap percent uptick after Jefferson got hurt. First was Brandon Powell. For anyone wanting to look and see if lines do come out on Powell, he saw the biggest uptick once Jefferson went down in snap count percentage. But Addison went from 58% in week 4 to 75% in week 5, while Hockenson stayed exactly the same. So you're seeing increased role here for Addison, whereas Hockenson stayed the same, and he's cleared that 51.5 receiving yards in 4 or 5 games, even with Justin Jefferson in the lineup there. They've allowed the 3rd most receptions of 30 plus yards, 6th most receptions of 20 plus yards, 2nd most yards after contact. So they're having trouble bringing wide receivers down and tackling. So this is a beautiful play. I think also you could put this with Cousins if you wanted to juice it up and parlay it.
Yeah, great correlation on there. Cousins is gonna have a day. He's got to spread it around. Jordan Addison's right there to take advantage of that.
I like his last 3 weeks, most of which Jefferson was part of. He had a quiet day against Carolina, but 6 receptions against the Chargers and 6 against the Chiefs. So in those games, he had 8 targets and 9 targets. I think he's going to get probably 10 plus targets in this game. So I think a line of 4.5 receptions at plus 100 against a great matchup is also
very nice.
A really nice way to approach this as well. So look for the rookie to step up big time in this game.
Agreed.
All right. Anything else? We're good?
Nope. Let's move on. Yep.
All right. Next, we got Arizona at LA. Little hometown game for Tom. Rams are -7, and the total is 48.5. So nice, big total again. The Rams seem to always be involved in those big total games. So let's hear what you got in terms of the matchup.
All right. So Arizona has the 5th worst pass rush win rate, the 6th highest average quarterback rating allowed, 5th most yards per attempt, 2nd most air yards per attempt, most completions of 10 plus yards. They've allowed 60 completions of 10 plus yards so far this season, 2nd most red zone attempts, and the fewest quarterback knockdowns. So I think Stafford's going to have a nice day here. Over 277.5 passing yards, minus 114 on DK. Look at these quarterbacks to face Arizona. Burrow, his line was 252. He threw for 317. Purdy, 241. He threw for 283. Daniel Jones, who unfortunately won't be playing this week, his line was 209. He threw for 321 yards against Arizona. And then if you look on the receiving side, Jamar Chase just had 192 receiving yards. Brandon Ayuk the week before had 148 receiving yards. Puka's line is 68. Kupp's line is 89. Higbee's line is 36. They have like so many receiving weapons. He's also got Tutu, who had a down week because of Kupp's return. But even before that, he had 8 targets in all 4 of his previous games. So I think we can look for Stafford to take advantage of the awesome receiving weapons he has and go over this line. I think 300 plus is easy for him in this game.
Yeah, I love this one too. Had Stafford there. One of the reasons the Cards are giving up the yardage that they're last in the NFL in terms of pressure rate, last in blitz rate, 25th in rate of man coverage. So they're giving QBs time in the pocket, and Stafford's the type of quarterback where if you give him time, he'll pick you apart. His worst days are when you get to him. He struggles a little bit when he's under pressure, but if he's allowed to sit there and take his time, he's going to pick him apart.
For sure.
Totally agree. I think it's a great spot for Stafford. I think, everybody saw Cooper Kupp come back last week and expected a slow ramp up, and the guy came back and put up, 8 catches for 118 yards. He was on the field for 52 of 55 snaps. So that kind of tells you he's healthy. He's ready to go. I think they took their time in getting him back. Look at this over the last, so Props.Cash just added more history. We can look all the way back to the 21 season. He has cleared his line of 88.5 receiving yards in 81% of games. It's 25 out of 31 games, of which a couple of those games he had gotten hurt in, which, you know what I mean? Like, those are the games. So, like, in games where he actually played, like, the full game, it's probably almost 90%.
At that high of a line. It's crazy.
At that high of a line, right? So I was scared by this line initially, and then I looked at the data, and I was like, whoa, we got to just play this. So I like that. That's my play for this game. I also, as I was saying before, with Mostert getting 100-plus rushing yards, I like kind of putting that together with Kupp as well at 100-plus receiving yards. Over this same period, he's at 100-plus receiving yards in 61% of his games. You can play that straight up at plus 130, or you can play that with a parlay of Mostert, and I don't know what that is yet. We'll look at it after, but that's going to be big money. 110 receiving yards is plus 185. That's got a 52% hit rate. 120 receiving yards is plus 265 on DK. That has a 42% hit rate. 42% hit rate for something that has, that is plus 265. That's pretty good. So I think he's gonna feast in this game.
You're trying to recreate that Montgomery, Achane, Breece Hall parlay from last weekend, aren't you?
Yeah, once you taste a plus 15,000 winner, you kind of want to hit that every week now. So yeah, I got to find the third leg. Maybe Kenneth Walker is the guy, maybe at 90 yards or something. But we're gonna definitely put one of those together again this week. There's a lot of opportunities. Okay, cool. All right,
I got one other in this game.
Oh, okay. Anything on the Arizona side?
I do have one on the Arizona side. So you actually do have a decent matchup for Arizona passing overs in this game. I think they'll be playing from behind probably. So that'll lead them to throwing the ball. James Conner is out after suffering a knee injury last week. So I think they'll be leaning on the passing game even more. And since they'll likely be down, I think Josh Dobbs is probably a good target here. But the guy I ended up on actually is the receiver, Marquise Brown. The Rams have allowed the 4th most yards per reception to wide receivers, 7th most yards before catch, 11th most yards after catch. And against quarterbacks, the Rams have the 5th fewest sacks, 3rd fewest knockdowns, and the lowest blitz rate of any team. So let's go with Brown over 61.5 receiving yards, minus 114 on FanDuel. His last 3 games, 61, 96, 61. So like almost 3 for 3. And he has a nice upward target trend. He went from 5 in week 1, 10, 7, and then he's had 10 in each of the last 2 weeks. And AJ Brown just put up 127. Jamar Chase just put up 141 against them. He's not on the same level as those guys, but he is the wide receiver number 1 for the Cardinals. So I think this is a nice matchup for him to get over 61.5 receiving yards.
Yeah, and I love that. Back to the overall over under 48.5. This game's got offense written all over it, both sides. So guys are gonna take advantage of that.
Good point.
Tom, are you just trying to set us all up for like the most heartbreaking loss this week? The guy has landed on 61 2 of the last 3 weeks.
I know
my
that
God.
scares you off big time. I know. You're paying the juice to get this down to 59.5. I know.
Totally, yeah. We had a couple guys in the NBA season that would always like land on like 10 rebounds or like
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm playing it. But
So you're predicting another 61.
Yeah,
I think he's actually got a few other 61s in there too. To be honest, if you go back, I think 61 is a common number for him.
Well, they do call him Hollywood, so it's good for the theatrics.
Yes.
Yeah. No, I'm buying that down to 60, and I'm playing it. I love that.
All right.
Cool. Let's go on to Washington at Atlanta. I'm really curious why you picked this game, Tom. This is going to be a hard one to watch. Atlanta -2.5 at home. Total is 42.5 points. That's pathetic, but let's hear what you got. I'm sure there's a good spot here.
All right. Yeah, I like targeting Washington here. The defense is garbage. 7th worst pass rush win rate. And that was before they lost 2 safeties to IR this week, including starter Derek Forrest, who played every single snap on defense last week. Atlanta does have the 24th ranked pass block win rate, so not super good in terms of just in the trenches, but they've been improving and actually had the 8th best pass block win rate last week. So they took a huge step forward last week. The offensive line played much better. Washington has the 6th highest quarterback rating allowed, 2nd longest average pocket time, 7th most air yards per attempt, 7th most yards per attempt, 4th most air yards per attempt. And this is what I love. Just when it comes to explosive plays, they're 21st in completions of 10 plus yards, but they're 3rd in completions of 20 plus yards, and they're 1st in completions of 30, 40, and 50 plus yards. So huge explosiveness that they're giving up. So guy we faded last week, I believe, or 2 weeks ago and lost on. I'm not going to fade him again. He's a much better quarterback at home. Desmond Ridder, over 202.5 passing yards, -115 on DK. He's cleared this in his last 3 of 4 at home, but 1 of 4 on the road. So it makes sense for the young quarterback to play much better at home. And besides Josh Dobbs in week 1, every quarterback has cleared this. Fields, his line was 189. He threw for 282. Hurts' line was 229. He threw for 319. Josh Allen did go under, but he still threw for 218 in that game. And Russ's line was 219, and he threw for 308. I think coming off the nice game he played last week, that was a nice step forward after a kind of mediocre start to the season. Playing at home again, I think this is a nice spot. He built up some confidence, and I'm going with Ridder over 202.
Yeah, didn't DJ Moore clear this by himself? 202 yards last time they played Washington, so that seems like a pretty good play. What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, that sounds good. I think, like you said, Dave, this is one of those you place the bet and you watch something else, though.
Oh, yeah. No, this is going to be a terrible game.
Like
all right, cool. Let's move
NBA
on.
Games, so.
Yeah.
Wait. I got another one in this game.
You got more for this game? I was done with this.
I got more for this game.
Go ahead.
So wide receivers also in a tremendous spot. 2nd most yards per reception, 2nd most yards before catch. They've allowed, obviously it goes hand in hand with the quarterbacks, but they've given up the most receptions of 20, 30, 40, and 50 plus yards. So I'm going with Drake London here. I like both his longest reception at 20.5. He's cleared this in his last 3 of 4. And look at all these receivers to clear this line. DJ Moore, 58. Devonta Smith, 37. AJ Brown. I won't read off the numbers. All these guys have cleared it. Gabe Davis, Stephon Diggs, Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims, Brandon Johnson, Rondell Moore. All these guys have cleared this longest reception against Washington. So I love that play. And then I just like his yards in general, 43.5 receiving yards, -114 on FanDuel. His last 2 home games, 78 and 67. So when they're home, you get the confident Desmond Ridder, and he's just been crushing this line. His targets the last 4 games, 9, 7, 6, and 7. DJ Moore had 10 targets, 8 receptions, 230 yards. Devonta Smith, 7 receptions on 9 targets for 78 yards. AJ Brown, 9 for 13 for 175. Diggs, 8 for 12 for 111. And even Cortland Sutton got there as well. I think Drake London is in a tremendous spot here. I think high correlation, obviously, if you want to put one of these together, you couldn't put the longest reception, but the receiving yards together with Ridder over passing yards makes a lot of sense.
What do you think?
Love it. Yeah.
I that was actually the one player I did see popping out in this game. I wasn't that excited about it. But what did you get the line at? What did you say? 45.5 or 48?
I got it at 43.5.
Oh, 43.5.
What is it up to now?
Yeah, it looks like 45.5, but I don't see which books that's from. So shop it around. I mean, I think in general, not just with this play, but every play, certain books are starting to release these lines. Others have had them out for the last 24 hours. You can get value still if you lock these in today. So definitely don't wait. These lines will move a lot over the next 24 hours.
Yeah.
All right. Is that it? You got more on this or?
No. That's enough for this game.
The worst game of the week. But we are saving the best for last. We got the Eagles at the Jets. We know how the Jets play at home. Jets are getting +7, and the total is 41. So they might be projecting the Jets to score like 3 of those 41 points. But we'll see. What do you got?
Yeah,
here?
that sounds about right. I just got one play. I love this matchup. The Jets have allowed the most targets to opposing running backs, 41 targets and 31 receptions. That's the second most receptions to opposing running backs. And Philly's offensive line is just tremendous. They're actually first in pass block and run block win rates. So DeAndre Swift playing behind a tremendous offensive line with this nice matchup here in terms of the Jets against and receiving by opposing running backs, over 16.5 receiving yards, -114 on FanDuel. He started off the season in terms of targets 2, 3, 2, but the last 2 weeks 4, and last week 6. And he actually went 100% completion percentage. He was 4 for 4 and 6 for 6 the last 2 weeks. And then look at some of these running backs that recently played the Jets. Jaleel McLaughlin, his line was 8.5 receiving yards. He had 21. Perrine had his line was 10.5. He had 73 receiving yards. Perrine, excuse me. Pacheco, 11.5. He had 43. Tony Pollard, 19.5. He had 37. And even going back to the first game of the season, I think James Cook, 12.5. He had 17. So I think this is a nice spot here for Swift.
Yeah, the second most popular Swift in the NFL right now, right? What do you like? You like his receptions as well at 2.5. You get that at +106.
Yeah, I mean,
pretty good value as well.
+106, you said?
Yeah, +106.
It wasn't out yesterday when I was looking at these, but yeah, I absolutely love that.
Right, he's done that in 3 of the last 4 games, and like you said, great matchup here. The only risk is it turns out to be a blowout, and then they just start handing the ball off. But I think the Jets, at home, I think they're going to put up more of a fight. They're not winning this game, but it could be closer than we think. Corey, what do you like in this game?
So I've got looking at Hurts over 43.5 rushing, -115 on DK, and this is really a combination of the Jets defense. So Jets pass D averaging just over 200 yards per game. That's down to 189 per game over the last 3, and then correlate that with their rush D, giving up 4.5 rushes per attempt. That's up to 5.2 over the last 3. I could see Hurts running with the ball here. The coverage is good downfield. He's got tight options. He's on the road. On third down, It's going to be loud in New York. I see him taking off a number of times in this game, clearing 43.5.
Yeah, when you're playing against one of the best secondaries in the league, it should be, and their offensive line is just built for running the ball. I mean, he's gonna have holes to run through, and I like the nice uptick he had in rush attempts. He went from like 12, 9, 10 to he had 15 rush attempts last week against the Rams.
Wow.
So yeah, I think they've started to let him loose a little bit more. I think this is a great spot against a tough Jets secondary here. Yeah.
How many of those rush attempts are the tush push? They get like 6,
the brotherly
6 of those
shove.
a game. Exactly. All right, cool. No respect for the Jets from either of you. That's terrible.
I'm laying off. I got burned on the 2 Wilsons last week by like 2 and 3 yards on both of them. So staying away this week.
I love both of those plays. I do think there's some opportunity on the Jets receiving side. When you think about game script, the Jets aren't really going to be able to run the ball very much. They're going to try after Breece Hall's game last week, but the Eagles defense is just too good stopping the rush. So that's going to fall apart. Jets are going to fall down. Jets are going to be trying to catch up. I think Zach Wilson is going to have to throw the ball a lot this game, which is pretty much worst case scenario for the Jets. But with that said, the Eagles are a little bit vulnerable in their secondary. So I do like a longest reception for Garrett Wilson. I think that's a good play. This is saying 23.5 receiving yards, but you can actually get it at 20.5 right now on FanDuel, which I think is even better. He's done that in 3 of the 4 games that he's played with Zach Wilson starting the game. So I think that is probably our best opportunity for a Jets play. What do you think?
Yeah, I like Philly, on top of having the best offensive line in terms of run stop, run block and pass block, they also have the best run stop win rate on the defensive line. So, like you said, the Jets are going to try to run the ball. I don't think they're going to be very successful. They're going to be down, and I think they're going to be airing the ball out here as much as they can, and I like that quite a bit.
Nice. I also, just to throw out a play from last week, I think it's good to go back to it. I think Tyler Conklin, 2.5 receptions, cashed for us easy last week. That is becoming one of Zach Wilson's favorite targets, and especially in a game where he's going to have to throw the ball quite a bit. That is minus 148. So just like last week, you got to pay the juice. But just to repeat some of the numbers we said last week, 88% has cashed in games where Conklin's had 3+ targets. So 3 catches in 88% of the games where he's got 3 targets. So super efficient when the ball's thrown to him. I think he'll get there again this week. So let's run that one back.
Philly's allowed the 6th most yards per reception to opposing tight ends. Yeah, I think that's a good spot to target here.
Yeah. Okay, cool. You guys got anything else for this game or any other plays for the week?
I think that's it.
Yeah, man. This has been fantastic. Love being on. Thank you, guys.
So happy to finally have you on the show. It's been a year in the making. Hopefully it won't be another year till we get you back on. But yeah, it's been good. It's been good. I hope you guys have a great day. Spend some of that money you guys won last night in KC today. Maybe some nice ribs or steak or something.
Yes,
but enjoy the day. Great chatting with you guys. We'll lock in these picks and let's make some money tonight.
Let's go.
We're on Sunday.